So, how about those new Silent Hill games?
Boo! You suck!
Oh. Usually I don't like talking about current events, as the further we move away from the present, the less of a shit I give. Here at the Game Asylum PLC, which is a totally legitimate business, we are all about the evergreen content. But after being flabbergasted by the insane reaction of the Bloober Team video, which some of you watched, I thought perhaps we could move away from the usual pelvic thrust towards the PlayStation 2, and just riff on some new shit. You see, at first when you lovely lot asked me about my take on this new stuff coming out, I kind of scoffed at this idea, because everything that was announced in this stream was just teasers with little to no chunks of hard gameplay or context. But after watching it a couple times and on further reflection, I realised that I do have some stuff to say. And it might be cathartic to talk about them in a way that doesn't sound like a dweeb, screaming into the void known as the internet, or my comment section by a select few who think I'm the fucking CEO of a certain Polish developer, when in reality I am the CEO of not giving a shit about your pedantry. Alright, that's enough of me objectionably tossing myself off. Let us walk the foggy streets of healthy online discourse, and see what horror will be coming our way, in probably 2 to 3 years. Before we get into the good shit, I just wanted to say that I loved the presentation of this stream. Additionally, it was a trip to see Masahiro Ito back into the fold after all this time. It's funny, I've seen this handsome man in the Silent Hill 2 documentary so many bloody times, I forgot that this was shot 2 decades ago. However, for a man who's had to deal with overthinking dumb fucks on Twitter all this time, he looks great. Then we jump to another friendo, Akira Yamaoka, and once again we are sideswiped by how well he looks. Because in my head, once again, he's still that rock star in leather trousers, strumming his Les Paul like a Japanese version of Prince. And seeing him now is pretty cool. Granted, out of the original crew at Team Silent, RIP, he's had quite the career, scoring everything from Rumble Roses to World of Tanks? Well, fire me out of a fucking cannon, to the recent polarizing psych 'em up, The Medium, with that certain Polish developer. Interesting. Let's just say that our boy hasn't gone hungry in the last 20 years. And this feels a bit cheesy, but you can definitely feel that some of the band are getting back together. And with them both working closely on a certain project which we'll get into later, I cannot deny there is a nostalgic warmth to the proceedings. Sure, it would be a pipe dream to see Team Silent back on the proverbial horse, but that is just untenable, due to where the team ended up in the last 2 decades, through retirement, bereavement, or jumping to other studios. So if you're in that camp thinking that they should come back for this one game, stop it. Furthermore, this stream and the cast within are just so wholesome. This isn't Jeff Keighley staring at us with dead eyes, surrounded by snacks that taste like shit, or Peter Molyneux ranting about something no one gives a fuck about. You feel the love of this franchise leaking through, and that is endearing. This week ditties from the Scottish devs at No Code, who brought us the oddly nostalgic Stories Untold and the space caper Observation. And if you haven't heard of this studio before, you're basically dealing with a mid-tier studio that specialises in story-driven games. And while I use the term mid-tier, that doesn't mean mediocre. I mean in terms of size and scope, as their previous games were decent in their graphical presentations, but you could feel that there was a budgetary ceiling. But hey, limitations can breed smart design, and Observation is a great example of this. And this trailer, while it gives nothing away, just the implication that they are making a Silent Hill game, a series known for its narrative, is enough for me. And I could speculate on what this game will be, but I think that muddies what this trailer is trying to say. And a secret message in the audio, which fans found out after this trailer was played, was confirmation to me that this could be a fun game when it finally surfaces. The name, on the other hand, is kinda dumb. Yes, a brand new feature film about Silent Hill is in the works, and that is something. especially when Christoph Gans is back in the director's chair, who directed the first flick back in 2006. I guess he has leftover debt to pay. Sadly, he didn't direct the follow-up, and after watching it for the first time a few days ago, it fucking shows. But bonus points for Kit Harington's dogshit American accent.
In the sanctuary, beneath the amusement park.
And not like the first, it's not 2 hours of one character shouting the name Sharon, like Ozzy Osbourne with Alzheimer's. While I'm not opposed to another shovel of schlock, the thing is, our boy wants to adapt Silent Hill 2. And why do I get this feeling that Konami is going to parade this fucking corpse like our former queen? And it's another media adaptation in close proximity to the remake. It just feels excessive, unlike the presentation, because all we get is a few storyboards and a lot of yap about shit. That makes my fucking brain shut off. And our esteemed director is French, and you may know my history with French directors. But my question is, why is this bit even here? If the flick is this early in development, then who cares? He could have sat in front of us for 5 minutes, put his hands on his temples, and imagined a movie in his head, for all it's fucking worth.
The game of Silent Hill franchise were great artistic achievement, and I have a responsibility to transpose that on a big screen, you know?
Christoph is the real gamer.
Ha! Yes, of course he fucking is. Hey, it wouldn't be a fandom if you could buy shite at 3 AM while pissed out of your mind. However, this time you're not greasing the mitts of some twat, stealing art to pad out his Redbubble store. What this is officially branded crap to burn our money on, while our family's freeze to death due to a global recession. Sweet! Of course, you get the usual statues of the iconic characters, which look, I will admit, pretty cool, and that dog one is just damn heckin' cute. But sadly, and I need to let you know this because it's quite sad, I have an allergy to gamer-tinged landfill, so this shit is just not for me. But hey, hold the phone, is that a Silent Hill trucker hat? Oh, okay, now you're speaking my language. Because deep down inside, I too want to dress like a middle-aged, retro gaming influencer, who loves to pander to other middle-aged dead inside normies, who dress like Fred Durst, who of course do it all for the retweets. What? Overall, I can respect the hustle, but I'm all about consuming the media with my galaxy-sized brain, rather than wearing a branded pair of French knickers. Okay, the next slab of shite is... what the fuck is this? Yeah, I'm not sure what this is, and my cursory research generated more questions than answers. Apparently this Johnny's from a company called Genvid, which makes, and I quote, interactive streaming experiences. I guess they were going for the maximum points in fucking Scrabble. From what I can gather, it's a gaming platform where you can stream the said game, and your lurkers can either help or troll you while you play, which, depending on my mood, appears to be a jolly good time or hell on earth. This genuinely terrifying trailer is for the new game from Neobards, who developed the Resident Evil 3 remake and the Devil May Cry and Onimusha remasters, penned by Rikishi07. I'm not fully aware of his work, so I really can't pass judgment. However, from the reactions in the comments when I watched the stream live, he seems like a well-regarded horror writer, but that shit doesn't matter, because this trailer is stunning. And sure, it's all ominous fog and mirrors for now, but a Silent Hill game based in 1960s Japan? You bet your bollocks I'm interested. And I could bloviate for another 10 minutes about how cool this trailer looks, but really I'm just stalling for time because... the next helping of horror contains more fan-based vinegar than 1,000 chip shops. That's right, let's talk about the fucking remake.
Sometimes, dead is better.
So the main event of this Bukkake party of dread is, of course, the remake of Quiet Mounds 2, where our boy James Sunderland travels through this eponymous town, while keeping his back to the wall in fear that he'll be buggered by a bloke with trigonometry for a face, with more frames per second than Babies Eaten by Noel Edmonds. Developed by, and you guessed it, Bloober Team, the Polish proprietors of Piss Stained Panties. And just saying that name, a select few of you just nutted in rage. Fanboy salt to one side, the mere thought of a remake of what many consider a masterpiece is, I will admit, quite the ballsy move, considering how, apparently, Bloober brute forced its way into the horror gaming lexicon by creating 4 games in 6 years, if you believe the bleating by a vocal minority of mediocre redditors. Now, I'm not saying that this Western adaptation of an Eastern thing by a studio that grew up in front of our eyes is bad. It's just confusing for the people that don't really know how to process this plot twist, even though we already know about this shit. It's there, it's right in the trailer, it says Bloober Team. Come on lads, use your fucking eyes. I think what adds to this anxiety is the inconsistency of their work, and this has been well documented. Like this fine example that's filled with more coke than a body pillow factory. Yes, look at me, I'm breaking the fourth wall, I am Hideo Kojima, I am so fucking cool. Sorry, being this sarcastic can be exhausting at times. Hurrying back on subject, if this was a studio that released nothing but profound 10 out of 10 IGN endorsed shit, then perhaps this fear would have been alleviated, and because subjective thought can get fucked, I guess. And yes, I'm trolling those fanboys, but I do get it. We live in a time when getting someone's subjective thoughts on media is only a few mouse clicks away, and before you know it, you're watching an endless flow of subjective thoughts from endless critical filters, with clashing ideologies, aesthetics and agendas, and of course more importantly, dick jokes. And it is so easy to be filled with despair, or be influenced when all you do is consume media from this perspective, and not find opposing views. Sure, use these filters and opinions as a springboard to build your own critical thinking, but for me, I'm an old school kind of twat, and I'm willing to play these malign games out of curiosity, and funny enough, more times than not, I quite enjoyed them. But I am a tiny voice in the wind tunnel filled with sodium. So I can get that people have been sideswiped by this new version, and this announcement and seeing that face, I totally get why people are like, oh, fuck this. But in other words, damn bro, that's a cool opinion you got there. Did a YouTuber give it to you? Sorry, that was mean, I'm joking, but this mindset is strikingly accurate, depressingly. Anyway, my own subjective takes on Bloober's back catalogue were sparked by this morbid curiosity. And yeah, I was quite pissed off when I heard about this, but during production of that video, I had an epiphany, which then came to me again while watching this teaser, and that is, drumroll please, I don't fucking care. The reason for my indifference is that this event is only showcasing concepts without anything meaty to chew on. Everything I saw in this was my perception, which means how I ingested this shit will differ from you. And I would rather have a progressive convo in a chat than kick shins over Sunday's foreskin not looking sad enough or whatever. And, like it or not, I'm not really panicking about this remake because Bloober has made a name for itself in the horror genre, and they have been creating a consistent stream of media with high production values for over half a decade. Quality notwithstanding, of course. And after playing their games, I get why they were chosen, and sure they may have tripped on various swords, such as spotty writing and characterization, and we can happily piss in these proverbial eye sockets until the nukes drop. But, like it or not, they are known to make spoopy games. So as a company that owns a spoopy franchise, you can see why they would employ a team that makes spoopy games and get them to make a spoopy game about their spoopy IP. Spoopy. But I'm sad to say this, it's that utilitarian. There is no rose-tinted goggles when it comes to business, even in an industry where we weigh artistic intent over everything else, while your feelings are more trappings and finery than actual sway. Saying that, I honestly can't see a scenario where Konami would give Bloober carte blanche on every aspect. They will be kept on a very tight leash, especially when it comes to the story, and the changes made will probably be low-hanging ray trace spooky onions over, I don't know, changing the pizza to a salad that Eddie's eating in the bowling alley, because the vegans may boycott this fucking thing, and I highly doubt they'll add anything extra like James getting a therapy dog named I Killed My Wife. even if the butthurt Betsy's imagined tweets in response would be fucking hilarious. Once again, I have to reiterate this, because some dick will fucking twist it, that my takes are entirely speculation. And yeah, it's fun to let your imagination run wild and share your armchair coding guff with your mates. The problem here is this is all we have to go on for now. Without any hard gameplay proof, whatever we say in regards to this is just white noise. Okay, there is that single gameplay clip that shows our boy dodging a bubble nurse, which means there will be combat or a hint of combat, maybe. Well, just look at him go. That looks like combat to me, and while it's not confirmed, and this footage is obviously in development, that is something we can latch onto. That visceral yet relatable thrill of avoiding knife attacks and depression. Now that's what I call psychological horror. Sure, as a Silent Hill fan, I have my concerns about this remake, but like anything in life, I err on the side of caution. And it's healthy to be skeptical, because allowing yourself to be swept up in marketing and hype will only lead to frustration when the thing that you amped up in your head fails to hit that rhetorical apex. This is why I said that blunt statement in the Bloober vid, because my love for this artistic endeavour is also tied to a monetary gain. Sure, we all spend vapidly on shit all the time, influenced by a myriad of internal and external factors, but it pays to be self-aware and to check your hype at the door, especially when all we see in this stream is shown rather than told. And this cynicism is also amplified by all these salty sultanas who are pontificating online about this shit. Who's gonna fucking buy it anyway? It doesn't matter if you buy it for 60 quid or a price of a condom in a Steam sale. Most of that dosh fills their coffers, even if you buy it from one of those shady key sites. It doesn't matter. Someone you apparently hate is still getting fucking paid. And I'm not saying capitalism is bad. I'm not arguing that fact. But I will say that this affects my overall view. And we are investing all this energy into something that doesn't care about you or your feelings, be they good, bad or indifferent. It's a commodity in the end for purchase. And whatever we say about this purchase is just wordy piss in the wind. It doesn't matter. Boy, aren't video games just fucking swell? Sure, we need an outlet for frustration, but screaming at random people or the developers of this shit isn't the way to go. That is why I made a YouTube channel, so I can scream at you directly and you can watch it for whatever gain you get. Thanks for subscribing, by the way. And the irony here is that this recontextualization doesn't replace what made the original special. We still got the original game, that's never going away. And if I can play devil's advocate here, perhaps this new Western adaptation can breathe life into these old texts. And we could finally leave the creators on social media alone with our years of making molehills out of dead fetuses. I mean, in the late 90s and early 2000s, there was a wave of Japanese horror flicks coming to us in these westernized remakes that pandered to our cultural sensibilities. And without these films, no one would know half of the horror tropes that came over here in games like Fatal Frame or Kuon. Shit, this image of a creepy black-haired girl dressed in white is just as baked into our pop culture as the one it originated from. Okay, most of these Western adaptations were fucking garbage, but this example is still valid. When you think of a remake of Silent Hill 2 in this context, that being a Japanese developed game set in a western town, and you do a little vice versa, doesn't it fill you with curiosity? Sure, in order to fulfill this curiosity, you would need to pop down your hard-earned, and supposedly a fucking PC from Skynet, or a PlayStation 5 if you live in an ivory tower. But still, how would this retelling for a very different filter go creatively? And that is where I'm rubbing myself through my trouser pocket. Will it be a dry copy and paste job with nicer graphics? Or will Sunday grow a pair and become a disco dancing ninja? Who knows? So yeah, I don't have much left to say about SH2R, apart from keeping my expectations to a minimum, and hoping Bloober will jump over that tiny hurdle. Besides, if it's shit, I can make a video on it, and then we can point and laugh till it pisses itself and cries. So in that respect, whatever happens, we win. And with that, I leave this announcement with hope in my heart, and oddly humbled by Konami, because the generation who was influenced by Silent Hill, which I mentioned in my last video, is now making their games, and working with these indie studios, or smaller studios if you will, that excel in the things that make Silent Hill strong, the good ones that is, gives me confidence. However, before I walk into the ominous fog, there is one last controversy that I need to clear up, and it's a little more personal unfortunately, so if you could indulge me for just a short amount of time, I would like to address it right now. during this existential conundrum of being Susan's temporary disciple, there was another small yet vocal minority that was questioning a few things beyond my mental capacity, such as giving a game that they'd never played before a decent review. No, what they were actually talking about was the way I gamed the system to get thousands of views on a singular video, on a channel with fewer subscribers than a Chinese maternity ward. Some questioned if I had insider knowledge before the news of this new Silent Hill wave went public. That gave me the upper hand to make this piece of content to pander to fans and detractors for maximum exposure and profits. Others were questioning if I was a Microsoft-funded spy, trying to pull traffic away from this announcement due to SH2R being a PS5 timed exclusive, when I have an Xbox One X on my desk with an inch of dust on it. One questioned the virtues of my mother, but that might be a term of endearment, and yes, I should have been swallowed, thank you. And last was a screed written by some dolt in what can only be described as word soup, saying I was a paid employee of Bloober Team, tasked with creating a video bashing their games so that fans who were pissed off about this announcement could find a dumping ground for their rage, so they could continue making the game without interruption. And I would like to clear the air, because these rumours could easily spiral out of control, and I wouldn't want misinformation leaking out into the air. So to clarify, yes, this is all true. I was paid by these entities in shiny gold chocolate coins to create that video, to wind up fanboys of a completely different intellectual property, which at the time wasn't even alive. And yes, I have been a very naughty boy, and I'm in dire need of punishment. But before I am thrust into the gamer gulag, do you want to know how I did it? And that you, yes, you have the power to manipulate the algorithm and become the next temporary YouTube sun god. And I'm not gonna rip you off with thousands of dollars to go on some sort of shitty seminar on Teams. I'm gonna tell you right here, right now. Are you ready? Here we go. Never gonna give you up, never gonna let you down, never gonna run around and desert you, never gonna make you cry, never gonna say goodbye, never gonna tell a lie and hurt you. Yeah, I fucking googled it. That's it. I didn't use DuckDuckGo or Ask fucking Jeeves or use Bing. I use fucking Google because he knows everything. If you ignore cloud gaming. Yes, the real story of how this video was made was a few months ago I found a rumour on Twitter which led me down a rabbit hole of page after page talking about good old Blueby being the harbinger of refresh doom. And sure, I was kind of salty at that time, but when I finally pulled my fat head out of my sexy thick ass, I decided to play these games back to back and judge them with my own adorable satirical style, and throw in my thoughts about the rumour and my feelings towards the franchise at the time, with some cool music to fit the vibe, dodgy levelling notwithstanding. Yeah, that's my bad. And then a few months later, I'm sat on my delightful tuckus watching a trailer and squirming at Jimmy's uncanny fucking face. Apart from my initial fleeting thoughts, oh god, what have they done to you?
Could she really be here?
Oh, what have they done to my boy?
Waiting for me.
This was soon replaced with, holy shit, after all this time and all this waiting, we live in a world where Silent Hill exists. And sure, we did before, but now it's back. It's relevant again. New things are on their way, and I'd rather live in this timeline than go back to purgatory. And that must mean something, right? And a game we like or don't isn't a matter of life or death. They are commodities to be bought and sold, with disposability being not only encouraged but legally binding, which is a whole nother rant, but another time. I have to admit there is a glimmer of happiness in seeing an old friend come back from a long break, especially when they had a painful, ugly demise. Fucking Resident Evil should take notes. And while we don't know what the future holds, there is a song in my heart that hopefully after all this time we can avoid the inevitability of some dickhead bringing out a video titled Silent Hill Homecoming is a masterpiece, and here's why, and actually fucking mean it. This of course is due to being starved of Silent Hill for so goddamn long, and these hardcore Johnnies who know every facet of the series will develop Stockholm Syndrome for its worst games, and that is a fate worse than death. And I guess desperate times call for desperate measures. Anyway, while I could dunk on that shit for another 2 hours, I think it's best that we bank that rant for another day. So all I have left to say is, ladies and gentlemen and esteemed members of the non-binary club, if you're a fan of this silly series, thank fuck this video wasn't full of fucking NFTs.